Imagine this. It's 2 a.m. You're a single parent pacing the kitchen floor. Your 3-year-old is burning up with a fever, and a strange rash is spreading across her chest. In a panic, you do what any modern parent would do. You snap a clear, well-lit photo with your iPhone to send to the telehealth pediatrician. You hit send, comfort your child, and wait for a callback. The callback comes, but not from a doctor. It's a thunderous knock at your door. 2 police officers and a social worker stand on your porch, their faces grim in the porch light. They have a report, a flag, your phone, the device you cradle in your hand 100 times a day, the keeper of your memories, your bank logins, your intimate conversations, has ratted you out. It analyzed that photo, deemed it suspicious, and filed an automated report that labeled you a potential threat to your own child. This isn't a dystopian novel. It's not a speculative Black Mirror episode. This is the logical, terrifying endpoint of a technology called client-side scanning. And while that specific scenario may sound extreme, versions of it are already happening. Cops and governments aren't just asking for a backdoor into your digital life anymore. They're demanding tech companies build a live-in informant directly into the circuitry of your iPhone, your Android, your Windows PC. A snitch that operates 24/7, analyzing your life before it's ever encrypted, and often without a judge, a warrant, or any semblance of due process ever signing off on the search. I'm Jeff Hampton, the people's lawyer. For years, I've fought in courtrooms against warrantless surveillance, against the slow creep of the surveillance state into our private lives. What I'm seeing now isn't a creep. It's a sprint, a coordinated, tech-enabled leap toward a world where the very concept of a private digital thought ceases to exist. In this deep dive, we're going to pull back the curtain on this silent coup. We will dissect, number 1, the precise technical mechanics of how client-side scanning turns your phone from a tool into a traitor, and how law enforcement is already leveraging its foundations. Number 2, how lawmakers in the US, the EU, and the UK are crafting legislation not to allow this, but to mandate it, using emotional blackmail and legal coercion to normalize mass, suspicionless digital searches. And finally, number 3, your actionable multi-layered defense plan. The technical tools, the political pressure points, and the legal philosophies we must champion to fight back and reclaim the digital privacy that forms the bedrock of a free society. But to understand the battlefield, we must first master the weapon. We have to start with the deceptively simple, profoundly dangerous question: what in the world is client-side scanning? Part 1. The snitch in your pocket, the anatomy of client-side scanning. For decades, the model of digital surveillance followed a familiar, if flawed, pattern. You, the user, created data, a photo, a message, a document. You sent it into the cloud, to a server owned by Google, Apple, or Meta. Then, and only then, would automated systems and sometimes human moderators scan that data for policy violations or illegal material. The search happened server-side. There was a digital line, however faint, between your device and the inspection. Client-side scanning annihilates that line. With client-side scanning, CSS, the inspection doesn't wait. It doesn't happen over there. It happens here, inside the silicon heart of your phone, your laptop, your tablet. The scanning algorithms are baked directly into your device's operating system. They activate the moment you take a photo before it's saved to your gallery. They spring to life as you draft a message before it's encrypted and sent. They analyze files as you download them before they're tucked into a secured folder. Think of it this way. The old model was like mailing a sealed letter and having postal inspectors open it at the sorting facility. CSS is like having a government agent standing over your shoulder, reading every word as you write the letter, examining every photo as you develop it in your darkroom, and filing a report before the envelope is even licked shut. The technical process typically follows a chillingly efficient workflow. Local hashing and analysis. Your device creates a unique digital fingerprint, a hash, of the content you generate. Simultaneously, on-device artificial intelligence, AI, can analyze the actual content, using image recognition to see photos, natural language processing (NLP) to read your texts, and pattern recognition to classify files. Database matching. This fingerprint is instantly compared against a government-supplied or company-maintained database of known illegal or problematic content hashes, e.g., a database of known child sexual abuse material, or CSAM. The decision point. If a match is found, or if the on-device AI flags the content based on its program parameters, your device doesn't ask your permission. It initiates a protocol. The report, a cryptographically safe report containing the matched hash, metadata about the file, and your account information, is automatically sent to the company's servers. From there, human reviewers may access the actual content from your device, and if their internal thresholds are met, a report is forwarded to law enforcement or a designated authority like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC. The proponents of this technology use careful, anodyne language. They say, "We're not breaking encryption. The messages are technically still encrypted in transit." And on the narrowest technical level, they're right. The scrambled text of your signal message still flies through the internet. But if a government-mandated AI is reading the plain text version on your screen before it's scrambled, then encryption is dead in practice. It is a hollow shell, a magician's distraction while the real trick happens in your hand. It's the equivalent of the government installing a 4K CCTV camera in your bedroom and saying, "Don't worry, we're not listening to you. We're just recording high-definition video of everything you do and say. Your privacy is intact." But Jeff, you might interject, this sounds like a scary thought experiment, a what-if scenario pushed by privacy extremists. Surely, this isn't already baked into the devices we use every day? Unfortunately, that's exactly where you're wrong. The infrastructure, the plumbing, the wiring, the foundational architecture for ubiquitous client-side scanning regime is not on some legislator's whiteboard. It is already installed on billions of devices worldwide. The snitch mode is dormant in some cases, active in others, but the hardware and software capabilities are live. Let's audit the 3 biggest platforms in your life. Apple, the privacy champion turned potential panopticon. In August 2021, Apple, a company that had built a brand as the privacy-friendly alternative, announced a shocking new suite of features. Among them was a system to detect CSAM stored in iCloud photos. The twist? The detection would happen on the device. Here's how Apple's since paused system was designed to work. Every photo you uploaded to iCloud would have a neural hash generated on your iPhone. This hash would be compared against a database of known CSAM image hashes provided by NCMEC. If a threshold of matching images was crossed, Apple would be alerted, could manually review the decrypted photos, and if confirmed, disable your account and report you to NCMEC and law enforcement. The backlash from security experts, cryptographers, and civil liberties groups was immediate and ferocious. They pointed out the fatal flaw. A system built to find one thing can be compelled to find anything. Today's database contains hashes of illegal CSAM. Tomorrow's could contain hashes of protest flyers from a designated extremist group, memes or symbols deemed politically sensitive by a regime, leaked documents or whistleblower materials, adult pornography in jurisdictions where it's illegal, images of firearms or blueprints for 3D printed guns. Facing a reputational firestorm, Apple paused the rollout. But here's the critical fact that gets lost in the news cycle. They did not remove the capability. The neural hash technology, the secure enclave processors that can run these computations in isolation, the entire on-device analysis framework, it all remains in every iPhone with an A12 Bionic chip or later. It's the core of features like visual lookup, identifying your dog's breed, and live text, reading text from photos. Today, your iPhone uses this plumbing to tell you what kind of flower you photographed. With a single, silent software update, one you cannot refuse if you want security patches, that same plumbing can be repurposed. The switch can be flipped from Find My Pet to Find and Flag Dissident Literature. Apple holds the keys, and governments are drafting the orders. Microsoft, the photographic memory you never asked for. If Apple's approach was stealthy, Microsoft's 2024 unveiling of Windows Recall was breathtakingly brazen. Recall was marketed as a productivity marvel, an AI-powered photographic memory for your PC. When enabled, Recall would take screenshots of everything you do on your computer every few seconds. Every private email draft, every banking login, passwords blurred but the site visible, every confidential work document, every intimate chat window, every website visited in incognito mode. These screenshots would be stored locally, analyzed by an on-device AI, and made searchable. Find that recipe you saw last Tuesday? Just type pasta. Sounds helpful, right? In practice, Microsoft built a universal, automated surveillance recorder directly into the world's dominant desktop operating system. It created a searchable database of your entire digital life, visible to an AI that understands context. Microsoft, after another fierce backlash, made Recall opt-in and emphasized local storage. But the precedent is set. The architecture exists. The capability for a device to continuously self-document and analyze every user action is now a shipped Windows feature. The leap from Recall helps you find documents to Recall flags suspicious activity is a trivial software patch. If your OS is already taking screenshots and an AI is already interpreting them, the logic chain to add and report matches to this government keyword list is a weekend's work for a developer. Google, the safety ecosystem that sees all. Google's approach has been more diffuse, woven into the fabric of its Android system safety core and Google Play services. Most users remain blissfully unaware until features like sensitive content warnings in Google Messages appeared. Here's how it works. When you receive or are about to send an image in Messages, an on-device AI scans it. If the AI believes the image contains nudity, it will blur the image, show a warning, and offer resources. Google's pitch is one of user protection, shielding you from unwanted explicit content. But let's pull back the lens. To perform this protection, your phone must scan every single image in your chats, including those in end-to-end encrypted conversations. The AI must analyze the pixels, make a judgment, and act on it. Google proudly states this happens on-device for your privacy. But the privacy violation has already occurred. An automated system, following rules you didn't write, has examined your private communications. The pipeline is now operational. The system can intercept content, images, soon likely text, analyze it locally with powerful AI, act upon it, blur, block, warn. The only missing component is changing the action from blur to report. That's not a technical hurdle. It's a policy decision. So, we have our grim inventory. The three pillars of modern personal computing: Apple's iOS, Microsoft's Windows, Google's Android, all now possess the inherent technical capacity for pervasive client-side scanning. The silicon is ready. The algorithms are trained. The reporting channels exist. The only missing piece is the legal and political command to arm them. Part 2. The legal blueprint for mass surveillance. How laws are normalizing the snitch. Tech companies didn't build this infrastructure purely out of philanthropic zeal to catch bad actors. They were reading the room. They saw the legislative winds blowing, and they built the sails before the storm arrived. That storm is now here, in the form of proposed and passed laws in the world's largest democratic markets. The rhetoric is always about protecting the children. The fine print is about building a system of total informational control. The European Union, chat control, and the end of secret conversation. In the EU, a legislative package often dubbed chat control, formerly part of the proposal to prevent child sexual abuse, represents the most aggressive attempt to mandate client-side scanning to date. The sales pitch is emotionally compelling. Stop the spread of child abuse material. The legal reality is a paradigm shift. The proposed regulation would force all covered providers, a category that could include every major messaging app, email service, and cloud storage platform, to scan all private communications, text, audio, video, files for not only known CSAM, but also for new child abuse material and even grooming behavior detected via language analysis. Most catastrophically, it demands this scanning happen even in end-to-end encrypted environments. Providers would have no choice but to implement client-side scanning or other technical solutions to peer into every private message. Non-compliant companies face staggering fines. EU officials insist, with a straight face, that this does not undermine encryption. But the digital rights group, EDRE, and countless cryptographers have called this magical thinking. You cannot have a system that scans the plaintext of every message for suspicious patterns and also claim those messages are private. It is a logical impossibility. Chat control is, in essence, a legislative mandate to turn every phone in Europe into an always-on, always-listening informant for state-approved content categories. The United Kingdom, the Online Safety Act, and the technically feasible trigger. The UK went a step further. It didn't just propose a law, it passed one. The Online Safety Act 2023 grants Ofcom, the UK regulator, sweeping powers to demand that platforms use accredited technology to detect and remove illegal content, including CSAM, even in encrypted private messages. The UK government has offered a temporary, chilling concession. They admit they won't issue these scanning orders until the technology is technically feasible. This is not a protection, it's a countdown clock. It is a direct signal to Apple, Meta, Signal, and WhatsApp. Keep working on your client-side scanning tech. The moment you tell us it's ready, we will order you to turn it on. The penalty for defiance is existential. Fines of up to 10% of global annual revenue. For a company like Meta, that's over $10 billion. For a smaller, principal provider like Signal, it's a death sentence. Signal's president, Meredith Whittaker, has stated unequivocally that Signal would shut down service in the UK rather than undermine its encryption. WhatsApp has made similar threats. The stage is set for a showdown where citizens may lose access to truly private tools because their government demanded the impossible, privacy with a built-in government tap. The United States, the coercive Earn It Act, and legal blackmail. The American approach is characteristically more indirect, but no less dangerous. Bills like the Earn IT Act, eliminating abusive and rampant neglect of interactive technologies, avoid the EU's blunt mandate. Instead, they use legal coercion. Earn IT seeks to strip tech companies of their liability shield under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act unless they follow a set of best practices drafted by a government commission. These best practices would inevitably include scanning for CSAM. The threat is not scan or we fine you. It's scan or we will open the floodgates to crippling civil litigation from anyone who claims to be harmed by content on your platform. For a company like Apple or Google, this isn't a choice. It's economic blackmail. Faced with the risk of infinite lawsuits, they will implement the most invasive scanning possible to earn back their liability protection. The law creates a voluntary compliance regime where the only rational business decision is total surveillance. The constitutional crisis, the Fourth Amendment in the digital age. This global legislative push creates a profound constitutional crisis, particularly in the United States. The Fourth Amendment protects the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. A search is typically reasonable only if backed by a warrant, based on probable cause, and issued by a neutral judge. Client-side scanning is the antithesis of this. It is a continuous, suspicionless mass search of the digital papers and effects of an entire population. It operates on the principle of search everyone, just in case. The government's likely legal defense? A chilling semantic trick. We're not conducting the search. Your private company is. They're just voluntarily giving us the results. You have no reasonable expectation of privacy in data you give to a third party. This is the third-party doctrine on digital steroids. It's a legal hack to circumvent the warrant requirement. By mandating or coercing companies to build the surveillance into their products, the government outsources the unconstitutional search to the private sector, then collects the fruits. It turns your device from an effect protected by the Fourth Amendment into an agent of the state. The question for our courts will be stark. Does the Fourth Amendment die at the login screen? Or does it extend to the intimate, comprehensive digital diary that is your modern smartphone? The battle will hinge on whether judges understand that a search conducted by your device itself, at the government's behest, is no different than a cop forcing you to unlock your phone and hand it over for every photo, every day, without cause. Part 3. The Fight Back, a multi-layered defense for your digital autonomy. Confronted with this coordinated, tech-powered legal assault, despair is not an option. Resignation is a surrender. The fight to preserve digital privacy, and by extension, modern liberty, must be waged on multiple fronts simultaneously: the personal, the political, and the philosophical. Front 1. Personal privacy practices, hardening your digital life. You cannot outrun a mandated operating system update forever, but you can make yourself a harder target, reduce your attack surface, and support the ecosystem of resistance. Think of this as digital hygiene for an invasive age. 1. Choose tools of resistance. Messaging. Make Signal your default for sensitive conversations. Its protocol is open source. Its commitment to fighting scanning mandates is public and litigious, and it collects minimal metadata. WhatsApp uses the Signal protocol for encryption, but is owned by Meta. Trust it less for metadata, but its encryption remains strong for now. Avoid conducting sensitive discussions in unencrypted DMs on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or X, where scanning is rampant and explicit. Search and browsing. Ditch Google search for DuckDuckGo or Startpage. Use a privacy-focused browser like Firefox, hardened with extensions like uBlock Origin, Privacy Badger, or Brave. Consider using the Tor browser for highly sensitive browsing. Email. Transition from Gmail/Yahoo to providers like Proton Mail or Tutanota, which offer end-to-end encrypted email and are based in stronger privacy jurisdictions, Switzerland, Germany. 2. Disable the features. Reclaim control. Windows. Keep Recall off if you have a Copilot Plus PC. Scrutinize every other AI companion or personal assistant feature. Dig into privacy settings and disable telemetry, advertising IDs, and background app data collection to the maximum extent possible. Android. Go to Settings, Security and Privacy, System Safety Core, or similar. Restrict its permissions. Disable sensitive content warnings in Google Messages. Consider using a more private fork like Graphene OS for Pixel phones, if you're technically adept. Apple. Use Settings, Privacy and Security, Analytics and Improvements to disable sharing. Be skeptical of every new AI for you feature in iOS. They're the vectors for future scanning. 3. Encrypt everything you can. Device encryption. Ensure it's always on. File Vault on Mac. Device encryption on iOS/Android. BitLocker on Windows Pro. Cloud backups. Do not assume iCloud or Google Drive backups are private. For highly sensitive data, use encrypted container files with Veracrypt before uploading, or use a zero-knowledge cloud service like Sync.com or Trezorit. Communications. Use Signal's disappearing messages for transient chats. Understand that no disappearing feature on mainstream social media platforms is truly secure. 4. The VPN question. A virtual private network is not a magic cloak. It does not prevent client-side scanning. The scan happens on your device before any data leaves. However, a reputable no-logs VPN like Mullvad, iVPN, or ProtonVPN is crucial for hiding your IP address and browsing traffic from your internet service provider. Bypassing geographic restrictions and age verification walls that are precursors to digital ID systems. Adding a layer of confidentiality to your internet traffic, making mass correlation of your activities harder. 5. Cultivate digital minimalism and obfuscation. The less sensitive data you generate, the less there is to scan. Ask, does this need to be digital? Does this need to be in the cloud? Use encrypted notes, apps for personal journals. Store critical documents on an encrypted, offline external drive. Understand that convenience is the currency with which you purchase surveillance. Front 2. political and public pressure, changing the rules of the game. Personal tools are a holding action. The decisive battle is political. We must stop bad laws and fight for good ones. 1. Contact your representatives relentlessly. When bills like Earn It, the Stop CSAM Act, or their future equivalents surface, you must flood phone lines and inboxes. The script is simple but powerful. Hi, my name is your name, a constituent from your city. I am calling to urge Representative/Senator to oppose bill name, e.g., the Earn IT Act. While I strongly support protecting children, this bill will undermine encryption and security for everyone, mandate mass surveillance of private communications, and create dangerous security vulnerabilities. Please protect our constitutional rights and oppose this flawed legislation. 2. Support digital rights organizations. These groups are on the front lines of litigation, advocacy, and techno-legal analysis. Donate to or follow and amplify the work of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF, the Center for Democracy and Technology, CDT. Fight for the future. Access Now, the Signal Foundation. 3. Shift the narrative. Politicians rely on the emotional shorthand of "think of the children" to shut down debate. We must reframe the conversation with powerful, relatable analogies. You wouldn't let the government install a camera in every bedroom to catch a few bad parents. Don't let them install a spy in every phone. This isn't a backdoor. It's a master key. And once it exists, hackers, hostile nations, and abusive regimes will steal it and use it. It won't stop with child abuse. Today it's CSAM. Tomorrow it could be scanning for misinformation, protest planning, or evidence of a miscarriage in a state where abortion is illegal. 4. Demand pro-privacy legislation. Go on the offensive. Support or demand laws that affirm the right to strong encryption without backdoors or mandated scanning. Require warrants for all digital data from providers, closing the third-party doctrine loophole. Increase transparency about government data requests and the use of surveillance technologies. The philosophical front. Why this fight is existential. Finally, we must internalize what is truly at stake. This is not just about naughty photos or dodging ads. Client-side scanning represents the final collapse of the boundary between our inner lives and the scrutiny of the state. It creates a world of pre-crime and chilling effects, where you might self-censor a search, hesitate to save a document, or think twice about photographing your child's bruise from a playground fall. It erodes trust in our devices, trust in our communication, and ultimately, trust in the very idea of a private thought. It enables not just law enforcement, but political control. The same system that flags CSAM can be tuned with a change of database to flag any content a regime finds inconvenient. It is the perfect tool for authoritarianism, dressed in the language of safety. Privacy is not about having something to hide. It is about having a self to be. It is the space where ideas are formed, relationships are nurtured, and dissent is cultivated. It is the bedrock of psychological freedom, a device that constantly audits your creativity, your curiosity, and your connections is a device designed to create compliant subjects, not free citizens. The snitch in your pocket is more than a technological feature. It is a question posed to our civilization. Will we trade the messy, risky, essential privacy of the individual for the false promise of total security and control? The architecture is built. The laws are being drafted. The time to answer that question, with our settings, with our votes, with our voices, is now before the silence is not chosen but mandated. Speaking of mandated silence and new frontiers of surveillance, the fight doesn't stop at your phone. Law enforcement is rapidly deploying another form of biometric control that operates in public without your consent: facial recognition. In my next deep dive, I'm breaking down the terrifying accuracy of real-time facial recognition networks, how police are using them to track protesters, shoppers, and everyday people, and the concrete legal and technical steps you can take to shield your identity. The panopticon isn't just in your pocket, it's on the street corner. Let's get prepared.